I was a target of the Biden administration. We had gone public. Company went to $34 billion in valuation. These short sellers were working with the government. They would come up with a salacious story, make $100 million on the short, and the government would come in and indict you. I get a call on my phone. It says, Executive Office of the President of the United States. And this is where the truth diverges. So.
What it is, Brad Lee back again with another episode of Dropping Bombs. Today in the studio, folks, as always, I got a real treat for you. Today's guest is about to stir the pot in a way only a billion-dollar founder turned convicted felon turned fully pardoned citizen can. I'm talking about Trevor Milton, the guy behind Nikola Motors. Is it Nikola?
Nikola.
Now, before you judge, folks, ask yourself, what if the media didn't tell you the whole story? What if there was more than meets the headline? Today, we're going to unpack it all. The rise, the fall, the trial, the pardon, and the truth behind his brand new documentary, Conviction or Conspiracy. This isn't just a comeback, kids. It's a counterpunch. Let's get into it. Trevor Milton.
Yeehaw.
I bet you're having a damn good day.
Wow. One of the best I've had in a long time.
Now, how long? I'm famous for not doing my homework with guests. Why? Because normally I just like to shoot the shit and like get to know things for real.
Yeah.
And sometimes it makes me look stupid. But how long ago did this happen? How long ago were you pardoned?
Just happened about less than 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago.
So you're still celebrating.
I'm still celebrating big time.
Now, how in the hell, number one, does that make you feel other than elated?
Kind of hard to process, actually. For 5 years, you live in this nightmare where the government is coming down with the full force, and the people who have never been exposed to the government's full force have no idea the pressure it creates. I love I love the name dropping bombs, because when the government comes in, they're literally dropping like nukes on you, and there's nothing left in your life when they're done. They just suck the oxygen out. They take everything you own. They create maximum fear. They get to create the narrative. They tell the media what to say. It's like, oh, your friends are, a lot of your friends end up not becoming friends. Your colleagues in business or your connections in the banking world evaporate instantly. Very similar to a bomb. It truly is. It's what the United States government does well. When they come in with the full force. And sometimes they get it wrong, but sometimes they get it right. And so this one was, I'm trying to process it because all of a sudden now I have all that pressure has been taken off of me. It's just barely happened.
Did you have like anxiety and like major stress related health issues?
Oh, I've never had anxiety in my life until this happened. Like I thought I could handle anything that was ever thrown at me. Even when people say negative things at me, it fuels me. It makes me like, I've had to psychologically my whole life just teach myself that like, hey, the more negative someone says about you, the more you know that they wish they were you, or you know that they just don't like their life, or they're rooting for someone else. So I never took it personal. But going through this caused an insane amount of anxiety. Like I'd wake up sometimes terrified because I'd hear a noise and I thought it was a government, busting down my door, and then come in, you're afraid they're going to shoot your dog and take your wife and throw her on the ground. It's just like that fear every day of like, what are they going to do is what you have to live with.
Now, when you got arrested, that was like what, 4 years ago?
It was 2020. I think it was around 2021 or two. So it was about 4 years ago.
Okay. So, and you were considered a billionaire at this point.
I was.
Multi-billionaire.
Yeah. There was a time when I was doing pretty well.
How'd that make you feel?
I never thought about money as like, oh, I've achieved this status. The thing I enjoyed about money, or the idea of money, was to be able to fix more problems. Like my whole life, and my wife always tells me this, she'll tell me something and she's like, I don't want you to fix the problem. I just want you to listen. My mind has always been, I'm a problem fixer. I love fixing problems. So the idea of having access to capital was never about me. It was always about, what can I go solve with this? Like what major problems in society exists that only I can solve because no one else has got the guts to lose it all to do it. So that's kind of what actually fueled me. And so the idea of being a billionaire was never super romantic to me, but having access to the money to do good, to do awesome things actually was attractive. That was the fun part.
But you didn't have any like the ability to go buy whatever the hell you want. That like doesn't give you any kind of feeling.
No, it's kind of weird because this is actually a subject I thought a lot about mentally in life, and I remember, so I'll relate it to something, and maybe the audience will actually like hear, like kind of see inside of my soul on this one. I had a friend in college that got every girl he ever imagined, every single girl he ever wanted. Just everywhere he walked, he wasn't even that good looking. He was just very, very charismatic, and every girl he ever wanted, he always got. And I asked him, I'm like, dude, how does that feel to get like every girl you ever want? And he says, it's kind of a turnoff. He's like, I don't enjoy it. It's kind of like, it doesn't really matter to me. And I was like, how in the world, because for someone who doesn't have something, there's a natural side of yourself that drives you to want to do that to better your life. Once you get it, it's kind of like, it no longer is that value. Like knowing I could go buy something. I went and I bought a really incredible jet. I love to fly. I'm a pilot
what
also.
Kind?
I had a Gulfstream G600. It's an amazing plane. It's about a $65 million jet. We used it to go to Europe to travel with our company. I bought it myself. It was an incredible feeling to do that. And, and so that was like, the fact that you could do that was amazing, but it's actually weird. Once you get to that point where the assets no longer become, you're not attached to them. You don't care. You can sell them in 2 seconds and not even care. They don't have any value to, because you have the ability to buy what you want. So you start to value other things like time and family and other things, but it just changes in life. And hopefully that kind of gives people an idea that, like, it's a progression in life. And once you have something, sometimes it's not worth as much as you thought.
Yeah, well, that's what I was driving at, because like I used to remember wanting to be a millionaire, and then when I became one, it was like not as great as I thought. And then I thought, well, that's because I underestimated, how much I needed. Wait till I'm a decamillionaire.
Yeah.
And then I became one of those, and I'm like, this isn't really what I thought it was either. Like I still have stress, I still worry, I still have to do things. I don't have complete freedom, so I've moved it to $1 billion. And I'm thinking, well, when I get $1 billion, let alone multi, but when I get $1 billion, then I'm going to feel this wonderful thing. So that's why I was asking it. So you basically you had to feel some sort of freaking freedom, because to know you never have to worry ever again, or at least you thought you never have to worry ever again about money. Does that liberate you in any way?
It liberates you knowing you don't need to beg people. That was the feeling I had, because my whole life, growing, when you go from nothing to where, when you start from nothing, and I literally had nothing in my life, to where you get to, there's a lot of begging that goes on, and it's kind of humiliating a little bit. And everyone has to go through it in this life. Like some people beg for jobs, some people beg for access, some people beg for favors. And, that process is tough to swallow your pride and realize that you need people's help to get somewhere. And I had to learn that. And so when you get to the point where you have that kind of capital, you no longer are begging. Other people are begging you. And then you can use that to leverage. And that's why it gets easier to make more money, because the more money you have, the more people that are asking you for favors or trying to figure out a way to get in your circle or do a deal with you. And with that, you can negotiate incredibly good deals. And when I got indicted, the crazy thing was, it was the first time in my life where all of a sudden I couldn't negotiate something. It was like all of a sudden my power to negotiate was gone. And that was like so weird, because that was who I was. I was a negotiator. I had the ability to negotiate, and I lost that when I got indicted.
And the government doesn't play fair anyway, do they? They're like, plead guilty and we'll give you 5 years. Fight us and we'll give you 57. So it's almost like almost everyone just says, I'm not fighting this.
Yeah, they say that, I think there was a number, they say that 20% of people in prison are innocent. It's that big. You're talking hundreds of thousands of people have been thrown in prison that never even committed a crime.
So let's go back and unpack it a little bit. Just from the regular person, they think Nikola Motors, those were the semi trucks that were going to run basically on hydrogen.
Yeah.
Clean, basically free. Is that why you named it Nikola, after Nikola Tesla?
Yep.
And so everybody assumed that you had the trucks working because you rolled a truck down a hill or something.
Yeah, it was that was the big headline that the short sellers really got everyone to like, because it was so easy to sell. I mean, think about a message. You have 3 seconds to sell a message. And their message was he rolled a truck down a hill. It wasn't real. that's a complete false message, but it was a message that stuck. And that's what
Yeah.
they did. So what Nikola, we unpack it. What is Nikola? Nikola was a dream of mine from the time I was a child. My dad worked in the railroad, Union Pacific Railroad. I grew up around locomotives. I grew up playing on them, riding in them, driving them with the operators. And I loved trains. And you would talk to these operators, conductors, different people in the rail world, and they would tell you, they're like, hey, there's nothing more efficient than a locomotive drivetrain. It's an electric drivetrain. It's been around for a long, long time. And so my dream always was how do I build a locomotive semi truck? And that was what fueled me, 30 plus years ago, or 40, 30 something years ago. And when I got the chance to finally do it, when I knew the market was there, technology was starting to come around, I wanted to build a locomotive semi truck. And we were the first people to really do that in the world. People dabbed in it, but Nikola was the biggest name in the world. We really launched the first truck. We had the first fuel cell trucks to ever hit production. First battery electric trucks to hit it as well. We beat Tesla, we beat everybody. And if you think about that, if you kind of go back, the story about this truck rolling down the hills, we built this first truck. It was called the Nikola 1. All the components on that truck were actually real and they function. And this is where the truth diverges. So what the short sellers say and the government said was the truck was always fake and it was never real. It was just a fake truck used on a stage. And the truth of it is the truck was real. The parts were real. The components were real. If you go down, just to make it easy for the audience, was the battery on it? Yes. Did it function? Yes. Was there a turbine that at that time we were powering it with, our idea at first was to power with a natural gas turbine, then moved over to fuel cell for zero emission. But was the turbine there? Yes. Was the high voltage working? Yes. Was the low voltage working? Yes. Were the air brakes working? Yes. Was the power steering working? Yes. Was the e-axle designed and designed and delivered? Yes. Were the components of the e-axle there? Yes. Rotor, stator, gears. So the point is this truck was real. It wasn't a fake truck. And what they used it is funny. They used a shot of our truck with like a cord plugged into it. But that's what if you go to CES in Vegas, every manufacturer in the world plugs their cars in because your batteries will die in 20 minutes. If you leave your headlights on in your truck, you go out there and start it 20 minutes later, it won't start. So they just sold this vision. They sold this like huge lie, and the media just took off with it. And that was the beginning of the end of the company, because we had gone public. Company went to 34 billion in valuation, and little did we know these short sellers were working with the government hand in hand. So what they would do is they would come up with a salacious story, sell it to the media, make 100 million on the short, and the government would come in and indict you. And they did it over and over and over again. These guys were like working together with the criminals, and that was a crazy part for me, is to realize the government actually loves working with criminals.
Back in the day, everyone would go, dude, come on. Nowadays, everyone's like, I can believe that. So the thing worked, or no, it didn't.
It did.
So what'd you roll it down the hill for?
We didn't have enough time to test it on a track under controlled circumstances, where you imagine you have this commercial wasn't even, by the way, this was done in a commercial. It wasn't done in an investor document or anything. It was done in a commercial. And the group that wanted to do it was the one who actually brought it out there. They filmed it. They had their own people. I didn't want their people near like our truck or like be in a position where they could get hurt if something went wrong. Imagine if your software took off. There's been multiple situations in the early days where like a Tesla car would just take off. Because maybe you hit your brake once and you tap your parking brake and you hit your throttle. There's these weird situations where you can engage a car to drive that was never thought of in the software process, and until it happens, they can never fix it. So it happens all the time where electric vehicles will just take off because the programmers who program it never thought about that variable. Like, well, what if you're parked on an uphill at a 12% grade? And you go to open your door. Well, that can just trigger the throttle to take off. Like you don't know until you test it in every variable. So, for us, we didn't want this truck just taking off and killing someone. And that was our big fear, is that the truck was capable of driving. It was capable. Every part on it worked. But it's been the biggest lie that we've never been able to overcome. And it's kind of stuck with the company until this day.
Yeah. I mean, when I was doing a little bit of research, I'm like, well, why would they roll it down a hill if it worked? Which is probably what most people think.
Yeah.
which is probably where you get the, you're a bad dude, you're a scam, da 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 da. Which, from a short seller's perspective, I could see why they were doing that. Now, had the government not came in and done anything, where would you be now?
A company would totally would have survived. The government wanted to destroy the company because they wanted to convict me.
Why though?
Because they only care about convictions. So these prosecutors, the thing you have to know about them is they get $5 to $10 million year jobs as soon as they leave the Department of Justice. The only way you get these jobs is to take down humongous names. So their desire is they take down big names and they get a $10 million a year job offer. And one of our prosecutors actually did that. There was 3 prosecutors. There was a lady named Jordan Estes, Nicholas Ruse, and Matt Podolsky. As soon as I got indicted, shortly after, she went and took a massive multi-million-dollar a year job. So the whole point is, and the other ones are probably on their way out, and they're going to go, well, I don't know about now because their case is overturned. But the idea is that the bigger the people they take down, the higher the job offer they get. And so their single desire is publicity around prosecution. That's what they care about. They don't care about the truth.
Now, your documentary, Conviction or Conspiracy, is that a self-funded thing?
We helped fund most or all of it. Absolutely. It was a big production that took almost a year to do. Maybe it was 6 to 8 months, somewhere around there. Very intrusive in our life. We had to make sure we were careful about it because at this time I was going through my appeal. So what we didn't want to do is have, if another group came in, they could potentially take something out of context and which could actually hurt me in my appeal. So we decided we were gonna figure out the groups that are gonna be involved, fund it, and make sure it was done in a way that wouldn't land me in prison for someone taking something out of context.
Now, what most people may not know is you never went to prison. You got convicted, right? And then you appealed it and were out on bail for the appeal. And that appeal was coming up here, or the termination of that. In other words, you were about to head to prison here pretty quick. And then old Trump came in and just freaking pardoned your ass.
Saved by the bell.
Yeah. And everybody's wondering, like, why the hell did he do it?
Because Trump's able to see Trump doesn't care what the media says. This is the difference. This is why Trump's really like a gangster. I mean, he's just the dude got shot. I mean, it's amazing. He was a quarter inch away from being killed. The media has lied about Trump in every way you can imagine. The prosecutors lied about him, dragged him into New York, convicted him on 34 counts of utter BS that they've never convicted anyone on. They cherry picked things. They lied about it at trial. The prosecutors lied. The judges lied. And, ultimately for him, he was like, he understood me in a way that nobody else would. Because, I mean, tell me who else has been dragged into the Southern District 2,000 miles away. Essentially, the entire story lied about, destroyed, indicted, convicted. Him. Very few people have. So when he saw my case, he was like, this really, I don't care what the media says. In his mind, he doesn't care. He looks at it objectively, and he looked at this and he says, this is a disgrace. We ought to be celebrating these founders that are building. Like, this is the thing. The most important question you can ask that your listeners can ever ask was, did Nikola build real trucks and did they ever get to production? The answer is yes. We were the first in the world to really, and maybe there's someone in some other country that had some small version, but we were the first in America for sure. And the first, I think, in really in the world to hit production of a fuel cell electric truck. And it is the most advanced fuel cell truck in the world. That means all hydrogen. We also had the first battery electric trucks to really hit production. So no one can say that the company was a fraud. It was all real. Everything, all the products were real. The Badger was real. The trucks were real. The Badger's a pickup truck version. We had, all of our products were real. The only thing they can really say is, oh, he's a fraud because they rolled a truck down a hill. Actually, I didn't roll it down a hill. I wasn't even there. It was done by a third-party group in a commercial. I mean, are we going to take General Motors and indict them because their Camaro turns into Bumblebee? I mean, that's the crazy part. Is that's how that was literally what the government was saying in trial was this is all fake fraud when they wouldn't even let me show the jury the trucks. So I think Trump resonated with that.
Yeah. Well, he's definitely one that has experienced that type of shit. And I always think, if you don't believe the media, then you can't believe it at all. And I would recommend everyone do that. A lot of people will agree with the media when it says what they want it to say,
Yeah.
and then disagree and call it false when they hear something that they disagree with. A lot of people do that because people always say, well, Brad, it said it on the news. I'm like, don't listen to the news, which means you can't listen to it even though it's saying what you want it to say either. I think the media is owned and controlled, and it's telling whatever narrative the owners says it should. What I'm trying to figure out is, why would they want to bust you? Why you? Why Nikola?
I think there's actually not one single reason. A lot of people have asked me that question, and I've talked to some people privately about it. I've never really publicly discussed it in detail. But I don't think that there's actually one answer. I think it was actually a multitude of answers. I think number one is I'm going to go through probably 3 or 4, and I've really never discussed these in detail, but, and I'm not saying them in an order of importance. I'm just laying them out. As soon as Trump was announced his candidacy, I was one of the first people to donate to him when he came down the elevators. I wanted a president that was a business leader to run our country. And I've never talked about politics in my life. You'll never find a single thing about my political past anywhere on any social media platform, anywhere ever. It was only recently when I got pardoned that I had to essentially discuss it because of the situation. So that was one. The number 2 is the prosecutors get their jobs based upon who they take down. So the prosecutors actually don't care whether you're guilty. They care whether they can convict you. So, and this is a sad part in the justice system that needs to be fixed.
I would agree with this, by the way, 1,000%. From personal experience, I've witnessed the dumbest shit ever. We'll talk about it afterwards.
And one of my goals in life now is actually introduce criminal reform that would strip the prosecutors from the power they have to convict innocent people. And there's about 15 things I can do that would actually completely strip them and make it to where they could only convict guilty people. And I've been through it, so I know what to do. And that's my goal with Trump, is to actually bring him a package that says, this is how you reform the criminal justice system. And if we get that passed, it's going to save hundreds of thousands of innocent lives. And so that's going to be my goal. We'll talk about that later. But that's my goal leaving this crazy, disgusting, terrible situation, is there's actually a silver lining that I might be able to help a lot of people. And that's a great thing. So prosecutors, they care about who they can convict, not who's guilty. They get jobs based upon who they take down. And on top of that, the prosecutors were working with the short sellers directly. They were communicating with them through their cell phones directly. And the short sellers actually they actually knew that this indictment was coming down. So they had inside information. These guys should be in prison. They don't care. The prosecutors don't care who commits crimes as long as it's their friends. And so I think it was that. And then you had pressure from our competitors. There was a lot of different groups that did not want to see us succeed. And they were making big investments with Biden. And I think at the time that was, Biden's Justice Department was all about taking down wealthy, white, especially normal, what they call the normal white person. And the sad part is they didn't even know I'm not even white. Like, my family's Cherokee Indian. So, and the judge just found out about this in my sentencing, and it shook him, because he realized that, like, sometimes, you take someone down thinking like, oh, I'm creating this social justice. But what they don't realize is that they've actually destroyed the very thing they're trying to create. And so it was just a sad situation. And I think there's a lot of reasons.
Is that your motivation behind the documentary?
I think the documentary is the first time the truth has ever been told. And look, it's not all favorable to me. The documentary is not like a piece that makes me look good. The truth is told at the end, and it is powerful. And you could say that that I think it will help viewers actually see the truth. And I think they'll be open and receptive to that. But actually, a lot of parts in the documentary make me look bad, because you can't have a true documentary without it showing both sides. And so, even though we helped, we funded this thing, I let these guys have creative control to go after me in a lot of areas in it.
So, but what was the motivation for this?
For people to see the truth finally. It was actually because I watched. Do you ever watch the show, the documentary? It's been a while now. I think it's called Making a Murderer. I think is what it's called.
Yep.
It was about a guy who's actually, who knows if he was framed. I mean, that's the whole point. Like, it was like, so it made me question everything in life. When I saw this documentary, it literally changed my entire life on what I believed. And I didn't know. When I was done, I didn't know what the answer was. And I think that's healthy for America, because we are too stupid to believe the stuff that they were shoving down our throats for what happened during COVID and prior to that. And I think Americans have finally woken up and just said, I'm going to start questioning things. And this documentary allows people to see this in a way that has never been told. And they're going to look at this and say, holy shit, everything I was told was a lie. And it's not just Trevor's life, it's everything.
Why do you think the judges, were like the whole thing was rigged from the start?
So I have a different feeling. I actually have some, look, the judge absolutely destroyed me, but I don't hate the judge for what he did. And the reason why is the judge is a product of his situation. And my judge, Judge Ramos, I actually think he has a heart. I think he didn't care during trial because he just lets the prosecutors do whatever they want. So the judges naturally give the prosecutors 100% leeway to frame someone however they want, whether they're guilty or innocent. They don't care, because they kind of assume, well, it's up to the jury to decide. But what they don't realize is that their decisions actually affect what the jury how the jury's verdict is. And I think sometimes the judges get really, I don't think they think about that. I think they think it doesn't really matter what's said here. What matters is what the jury gives them. And that's actually very wrong. But it's a product of their environment. And I don't think the judge is actually was a bad guy. I think he's got a big heart. I just think he's around bad people every day of his life. He sees bad people come through his courthouse, like murderers and rapists and the most vile people, like literally like serial everything. And we come in there and he just assumes I'm a bad guy. I don't think he even knew I was a good person until my sentencing. I think that was when he actually said a lot of really nice things to me. And I think he was like, shit, man, I got this thing wrong. This dude was not who I thought he was. And I'm going to let the appellate court fix it.
So did you plead guilty or did they convict you?
No, they convicted me.
So a whole jury heard all the evidence that they were allowed to hear, and all agreed.
So out of, we had 4 counts against me. They're pretty much all the same conduct, misstatements. Well, they call it wire fraud and security fraud. The jury acquitted me of 1 and convicted me of the other 3. The reason why the other problem, the reason why this is kind of important is because the judge had actually given them the wrong instructions. And this is why it's important for judges to actually care about what they do. So the jury was told that they could convict me without intent. So if you ask anyone any criminal prosecutor or defense attorney, they'll tell you intent is one of the main only foundational requirements to a crime.
There has to be intent.
Has to be intent. If not, it's just an accident. Like, do you intend? It's the difference between manslaughter and murder or whatever, right? An accident and purpose. Like, did you kill someone on accident because you weren't looking where you were driving? Well, you're not a murder. You killed someone. You did it on accident. You're not a murderer, but you might be manslaughter or it might just be an accident. They don't prosecute you. So in my situation, there was ample evidence that there was no intent at all. As a matter of fact, I was asking my attorneys for help. I was asking them for clarification. I was asking them to review things, and they just refused. They refused to do their job.
Yours?
Yeah, mine. And they never even got prosecuted because it's crazy. I was asking them for help. I was asking them for reviewing things. I was asking them to make sure things were disclosed. And so the intent was never there. And the jury came out afterwards in an interview and they were like, well, we convicted him because intent was not required. And we're like, you can't convict someone without intent. Why'd you think that? And the jury told the reporter that asked him that, they said, well, the judge told us we didn't have to have intent to convict him. So essentially what happened is that the judge just told him you can convict an innocent person if you want. It's no problem.
Now, do you think if the appeal would have went all the way through, it would have been overturned?
I think we would have had a very high chance of getting overturned. And that's a hard thing to have in the Southern District. The judge admitted there was errors and major problems in my trial at my sentencing. And so the appellate court will read that and say, oh my gosh, this is a problem. They probably would have remanded it down for a new trial.
So the prosecution basically alleged this man knew full well these trucks were bullshit. They never worked. They were never going to work. This was all just a big ruse to raise up a bunch of money. That's what they basically said in a nutshell.
And then they told the jury that the trucks were never real, which ultimately was the hardest thing to hear in the world. Cause I'm like, I asked the judge if I could drive the truck to the trial and he said no.
See, again, that's the type of shit I don't freaking understand. Like, you should be able to introduce any damn evidence you want, right? It's evidence. I hate when they say in these trials, oh, that's not allowed, when it's a crucial piece of evidence. Well, what do you mean it's not allowed? Like, are we here to fucking find the truth or no?
They're not anymore. And that's what needs to change in criminal reform. So I'll give you an example. There's a very clear example in my trial. I think that'll resonate with everyone. There's two things. One is the government claimed that my trucks were fake. Yeah, they wouldn't let me.
That's what they make it seem like.
Yet they wouldn't let me show the jury the trucks. They wouldn't let me drive it. Do you know the prosecutors wouldn't even let me see the trucks? They prevented me from even seeing the trucks to inspect them myself. This is how corrupt it is. So you can guarantee any conviction you want if you rig the system like that.
But you think that's political people behind the scenes just cock blocking?
No, I think that's the prosecutors wanting a conviction, and they don't care if they destroy an innocent person's life to get a conviction.
But aren't these courtrooms and procedures like witnessed by other legal experts that could say, what are you doing? You can't do that.
Yeah, but they don't care. No one cares anymore. No one cares. Like, think about it. What trial have you ever, I mean, as a normal American, what trial have you ever heard of where you're like, that was really messed up, they shouldn't have done that? None, never. There's a lot of bad people that are in prison that should be in prison that still got railroaded, and they should have been convicted the right way, not the wrong way.
And there's people that got convicted and went to prison for a couple of years when it should have been a lot longer. And then there's people that did barely anything. They're in there for 20 years.
Exactly. You know, the whole system is it makes me so angry that, like, I think this is really where my documentary, when it comes out, and it's coming out here in a couple of weeks, is the first time I ever talked about it. On a podcast. This is incredible. This thing is going to be, it'll show you the truth and it'll make you angry. In a good way. Like, it's going to, you're going to see bad things about me. It makes me look bad too, but it also brings the truth out, and you're like, oh my gosh, now I see what the lie was, how people believed it, and then the truth, and I'll give you just a little bit of a teaser here. And I talked about this in my sentencing with the judge, so I'm okay kind of teasing it out on the trailer. The government and the short sellers and those who were after my money had told everyone that I stepped away from the company because of the Hindenburg report, this big short seller report. When the truth actually is my wife was probably days away from dying. A doctor had put the wrong person's blood plasma in my wife, and it almost killed her instantly. She developed autoimmune diseases, diabetes. Her blood stopped flowing. It doesn't filter anymore. She gets extremely sick just by the smallest things. She's had multiple seizures in front of me where her eyes roll back into her head and she just completely goes into a seizure. These are things that I was dealing with I've never talked about them once, and I never used them as an excuse ever. It was never even brought up until the judge asked me, until I had to explain everything to the judge at the end after I was convicted. I wasn't allowed to tell the jury about it. I mean, this is the crazy thing. I was prevented, probably 95% of the evidence in my trial was prevented from coming in. That would have shown I was innocent.
You think they would have blocked it from the appeal as well?
No, they couldn't block it from the appeal, but the problem with the appeal is, I shouldn't say that. Yes, they do. They do it in a different way. They say it's not pertinent to the trial, so therefore it's not introducible. But in sentencing, the good news is, in sentencing, the rules are you can bring anything into sentencing, because there was criminal reform done a while ago that said you're allowed to bring anything you want into sentencing.
Well, it's too late then, isn't it?
Exactly. That's the fucking problem. Sorry for the language. That's the problem. Is it's like, let's convict the guy and then let's let the good stuff come in so the judge is not so mean to him.
Yeah.
It's
do you think this documentary and your mission is now to get reform?
That's my hope. The nice thing is now is I have a great connection and relationship into the White House now because of my pardon. So
who with?
Well, I mean Donald Trump, right? I mean, so if the nice thing is he called me twice. The first time, and I'll tell you guys a story about that, but we'll come back to that in a minute. But the fact is that now he knows me personally from what I went through and the pardon. The pardon's a very personal thing. It's very rare that the president pardons people he doesn't know exactly what's going on. He knew about my case. His entire team knew about my case. They reviewed it. And that was that connection now. And I even asked him on the phone, I said, we need to have a reform, Mr. President, because as soon as you're out, they're going to come after you again and me and everybody else. And he says, I know.
That was going to be a question. Do you think they're going to try to whack you again as soon as somebody else is in there?
Probably. I mean, look, there's America now. It's sad that I'm hoping the reform can get passed before that and it'll prevent them. Because to give one of the examples that I'm going to do in reform is I'm going to petition that if the government indicts you, you get to choose your venue. This will prevent prosecutors from getting these big trophies on their wall. So if they want to indict you, by all means, indict the person, but they get to choose where they're tried. I would have never been convicted if I would have been able to choose where I was tried.
Where would you have chosen?
I could have chosen probably any district in America except for the New York, and I wouldn't have been convicted. But I mean, Arizona, Utah, Oklahoma, my ancestors are from there. They're ripped out. They're already ripped out. I mean, government already stole all my ancestors' land, ripped them out, the Trail of Tears, raped them, murdered them, kicked them out, threw them down there, put them on a reservation and screwed them. I mean, I'm quarter Cherokee. My mom was half Cherokee. My grandmother's pure Cherokee. So it's like, the thing is no one the government could only convict me in New York because they hate wealthy white people in New York. I went into that jury, and one thing that audience doesn't know, and it's in the documentary, and I can talk a little bit about it, is that one of the jurors had posted prior to my trial that her, quote, New Year's resolution was to abolish the billionaire class, end of quote, and take down billionaires. She lied to the judge. She told the judge she didn't use social media. She lied and said she never had any statements out there that are prejudiced. And she lied to us, essentially saying that where she got her news and everything else. So we were not able to research her. After the trial was over, we found all these comments where her desire was to take down a wealthy white guy. That's what her sole desire in life was. And she admitted it.
Who's this?
This is juror number 6. And she admitted it. And and it's all on recording. In my documentary, you get to hear this. It's all on recording. There was a journalist that actually interviewed her, and she was dumb enough to admit it. And so now it's all over. It's all there. The recording's there. And so what's amazing is that, and by the way, I didn't have anything to do with that. That was that came out. We actually used that in my appeal. That came out like a long time ago. But a lot of people don't know about that. It gets used in my documentary. But this juror, literally, her desire was to abolish the billionaire class. Now, let's put this in perspective.
So you were guilty even before she heard a word.
And the judge didn't give a crap about it. Even after the trial, he's like, I don't think that she had bias. I'm like, imagine this. Let's just clean the slate here. Imagine if you go on the trial and there's a young Hispanic kid. He's alleged to have murdered someone. And you're on the trial. And little do they know that you had commented 3 months ago that your resolution for this year was to abolish the Hispanic class. And you're on the trial for this young Hispanic kid. That's how disgusting this is. This is what makes me so mad about our justice system, that even when they know they're wrong, the prosecutor's like, oh, it didn't matter. Like they knew how disgusting this was. They don't care. They would rather destroy the faith in the justice system than let one innocent person go free. That's how messed up it is. And this is why I have zero respect for the prosecutors at all. None.
You mean then let one guilty person go free? Or
either way, guilty or innocent. They will never admit when they're wrong, because that's the sad part. Why not just admit? I want to say, you know what, we got it wrong. Like, let's retry it.
You would think that's what they do.
Never.
But I think a lot of people, especially the average American citizen, we want to believe that our justice system works. We want to believe, just like doctors, people trust doctors so much. All the doctors, a lot of the doctors during COVID were telling you, well, get the vaccine. You better get the vaccine. I'm telling you, you better get it. Well, now look. And none of them are saying, oh, I apologize. I was wrong. I was listening to the board. I didn't want my license taken from me. And I was like, come out and say it now. Like, let's get some reform. Like, tell the truth for once. Let's clean it up. I just don't know if that's possible. What's your thoughts?
I think people have a hard time admitting when they're wrong. And I've had to look back on this situation and try to figure out, what did I do that I could have done better? And I've talked, this is something that is in a little bit in the documentary, but is now coming out on what I'm doing today, with you guys and other forums, is to really, let people know that, like, you can do a lot of things right, and you can do a few things that you wish you would have done better and still be a good person. Like, I didn't commit fraud. There's not $1 missing. That's what fraud is, right? Not $1 missing, no document shredded, no evidence cover up. What they hated about me is the fact that I spoke in the present tense when I was talking about my business plan. Shit, I didn't even go to college. I went to one semester of college. I'm not a Harvard grad. I mean, you're mad at me for using the wrong tense of verb. I speak 3 languages. I don't even know, like I speak the wrong tense of verb in every language. So it's like, whoop-de-doo, you know, like I never really thought it was that big of a deal because everyone knew we were pre-revenue. The government said, no, you lied. And so the hard part is to go back and look at it and say, even when you're accused of something, what did I do wrong? And, you know, and I look at it and I learned a lot of lessons about what I could have done better. And the problem is the prosecutors will never do that because they're arrogant. They're just arrogant bullies that like to destroy lives. All they do is destroy. They don't build. They only destroy. So everything they touch, they destroy. They're like chemicals. They have no desire to ever fix or help anybody. And I think that's a sad thing. I think there needs to be some reform around what prosecutors can do and who can be qualified to be a prosecutor.
And who can indict. Because again, to be indicted is pretty easy to get done. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
They say you can indict a hamburger.
You can. And one of the things in the criminal reform, the list I have is that one is if you're going to have a grand jury to indict, then the defendant ought to be allowed to come in and tell his side, and that cannot be used against you at trial. And that's what should be done, because then it would allow 2 sides to be told to the grand jury. Right now, the prosecutors walk in and usually within 30 seconds to 1 minute, they have an indictment.
Boom.
That's how bullshit it is. Just a rubber stamp. That's what they did to me. They told the jury, this guy ran a public company. Here's the news articles. He lied. He sealed my indictment. They did it. They didn't even know that these articles came from short sellers that made tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. They didn't know that there was people behind it. They didn't know that all this was, that I was referring to the business plan. And I couldn't tell them. So it's like, you got to have a stopgate there. And so in some cases, they call it summary judgment, where you can go before a judge and the judge has to see that you meet a certain standard. That's not there for criminal. The second one is that the grand jury doesn't allow the defendant in there, which is bullshit too. They ought to have a right to go in and tell the jury to prevent the indictment from coming. Because once it happens, it ruins your name for life.
And not only that, 9 times out of 10, you don't even know what's happening, do you?
I had no idea.
Like, you're probably sitting there thinking, you know, we got a nice little future ahead of us. Meanwhile, there's somebody in a room somewhere going, we're going to nail this dude.
Yep.
So damn, I had a damn good question. See, that's why I always interrupt people. Because, like, if I frickin' wait,
you forget.
Yeah, but everyone bitches, you know, let them talk. Let them tell a story, you asshole.
Interrupt anytime.
It'll come back. So fortunately you got pardoned. And I want to like talk about the process, the pardon process. But a lot of people are going to say, well, no wonder he got pardoned. You donated a couple of $1 million to old Trumpster. And people that hate Trump are obviously saying, what happened? Well, what happened, if you ask me, is Trump realized that the former administration was witch hunting and weaponizing the justice system against certain people, probably noticed that you're a big supporter of theirs and said, hey, let's go get this bastard. Let's make him a big example. And that might have been why he also did it. Because, like, dude, clearly you were being witch hunted if you weren't allowed all of that evidence into trial. So do you think he pardoned you at all because just to spite dipshit?
I think that there was, 2 reasons. I think 2 clear reasons why he did it. And it had nothing to do with money, because it never even came up. No one even knew that I donated to him. The number one is that he knew it was wrong. Trump's actually a man of principle. He's the biggest family man you've ever met. And I've had people tell me that when Trump promises to do something, and he promised to reform the criminal system, he will do it no matter what it takes. He doesn't care. The second one is it was the government picked me out because they wanted to make an example out of me so they could destroy wealthy, white, people that had money, that were conservative. I was a target of the Biden administration. And I think Trump did the same thing. Okay, you made him an example. Well, I'm going to make you an example. I'm going to take your biggest conviction away from you. I was the biggest case in the Southern District for probably 5 years. And Trump just said, screw you to the prosecutors for destroying an innocent person's life, and I'm going to make an example of you. And what was really incredible is what Trump said about me in the press conference. I mean, it was amazing. It was one of the, one of the most amazing. I mean, he literally was like, he just went off about what they did to me, how they destroyed me. They took 5 years of my life. I didn't even commit a crime. And it was just, they targeted me. And it was, I mean, for the president to not only pardon you, but then to go in and stick up for you against all the negative media. I mean, good gosh, what, you couldn't ask for anything better in life.
So what was the pardon process like? What really happened behind the scenes? Tell us about it.
So I wish I knew more, but I'll tell you what I do know. And that is that we created a 1-page overview of my case and essentially the abominations in my case, the stuff that were just disgusting and wrong, that no one with their right mind would ever say that's okay. And we knew we had a few things we had to do, and we had to do it quick, because number one is World War III could break out, the world could break out, anything could happen, economies could collapse, whatever. And if that happens, good luck getting anything done, because he's going to be full attention on that. So going into this, we knew we had a very, very short period of time to get this done. So what we did is we created a 1-page overview. My appellate attorney, her name is Alexandra Shapiro. By the way, the best that's ever lived. There's no one I've ever met in my life that's better than Alexandra. So if anyone's in a really bad position on it, she's the best. You got to understand that she can't take very many people, but she's the very best that's ever lived, and her record proves it.
For what?
Criminal appeal.
Clemency?
No, criminal appeal. No. So she just won before the Supreme Court 9-0 to overturn the Southern District. She's like she's like, I mean, imagine like a Michael Jordan, LeBron James level, Shohei Ohtani in baseball. Like, she's that level of quality, and no one ever is. She wrote a 1-page overview of the absolute disgustingness of my case, everything that was wrong, and submitted it to the White House for consideration. And it got picked up. They looked at it and they said, Southern District, just happened to be that Trump wanted to show the Southern District. They fired they threw out the U.S. attorney there. So the history on that is Eric Adams was indicted, and Pamela Bondi called up to the Southern District down there and says, dismiss this case. And they told her to piss off. This is what the media was all reporting, and inside, people were saying. The media told her, "Screw you." The prosecutor said, "We don't care. We're not dismissing this." And she's like, "Let me give you a lesson. You work for me. You're gone." And they dismissed this. And so I think what this was a giant, Trump is trying to tell the Southern District, you're not the sovereign district. You're the Southern District, and you still work for America. You don't work for yourself. And they've become the district that believes they don't work for the government. They can indict and take and destroy anyone they want, and they don't answer to anybody. And I think this was Trump's example. You know what? Trevor was your biggest conviction you got. You took this guy down. He was your trophy on the wall. And now it's no longer. And he took it away from him. And there's nothing they could do. And it was really, really special. So we submitted that 1 page, and it just got picked up by him. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, we got a call from the White House counsel, where they're asking my appellate attorney some questions about my case. And I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe there's a chance. And I had never met this White House counsel, didn't know who he was, didn't know anything about him. And my attorney is answering questions. And next thing you know, I get a call from, this is probably the funnest part of the story to tell. I get a call from show you, I don't know if I have it up on here. Let's see if I can find it real quick for you. Here it is. This is pretty cool. All of a sudden I get a call on my phone, and I'm sitting there, and it says Executive Office of the President of the United States. And just blur out that number, by the way, if you show that. If you show it, just blur out the phone number, okay?
Okay.
If it's on film here, just blur that out. You can show the names and the title and all that, but that's what shows up on caller ID. So at first I was like, okay, am I getting punked here? Is this someone trying to get information out of me? And I see it all the time with politicians where people impersonate someone, and the next thing you know, they're giving up all this information, and it just makes them look bad. And so I was on high alert. I'm like, is someone using AI? Is Trump not really Trump? Why are these people calling me? And so this call comes in, and this person says, is this Trevor and Milton? I said, yes. And they said, this so-and-so from the Executive Office of the President of the United States. President Trump would like to speak with you. Do you have a minute? I mean, the moment that happened was like that was the biggest moment in my life, because I was like, first of all, you're going to take the call from the president whenever he calls. I mean, that's one of the greatest privileges you have, is to talk with the president of the United States. And second is why is he calling me? It's got to be about my case. He would have no other reason to call me. I don't know him. Like, why else would he call me? And I'm a convicted felon, like, why would the president be calling me?
So is he though, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
Can he just pardon himself?
He can. And I'm sure, I'm probably sure, there'll probably be, I'm sure there'll probably be something one day. I mean, he can do it. And,
because they're going to go after him if they get back in. I don't see him getting back in for a long time.
I would not stop short of any. They are very, very smart people, and they're very good at organizing, especially votes. So
isn't there a rule that convicted felons aren't supposed to cohort or whatever?
I don't think it's core. I think he has under the article of the Constitution, he has the right to pardon someone. And I'll tell you this though, when by the way, anyone he wants for whatever reason he wants.
Biden proved that. Like, Biden was giving out pre-pardons, which makes zero sense whatsoever. Like, in my mind, you got to be convicted of something. You can't just get pardoned in case you did something. No, dude. Like, you have to be convicted. So all those pardons, which again, I don't believe the media, they're saying Trump's repealing them and they're not valid. Fauci and all the pre-pardons he gave out, Biden, I'm told by the media that those are null and void. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah. So I don't know. That's a constitutional question because it was done with auto-pin. So the question is did Biden even know it was going on? That's really where it came down.
But still, I mean, dude, you have to be convicted. That's what a pardon is. You're being pardoned for what you did, not pardoned for what you might have done.
Actually, I think that this is where I'll actually disagree with you on, which is okay. It's I think that I actually don't think there's anything wrong with pardoning someone who has not been convicted yet, because what he is saying, what a pardon is saying is that you are innocent. And there's different types of pardons. Mine was what they call a full and unconditional pardon, which is a pardon of innocence. And so you can be declared innocent whether you've been convicted or not. And the innocence prevents people from attacking you or harming you. I don't like what Biden did, but I'm actually happy he did it. And here's the reason why. I believe that there should be some powers in the Constitution and in the government that are unchecked, very limited. But that is the pardon, even if I don't like it, even if I hate it for who he pardons, I'm actually happy and proud of those people for getting pardoned, because it's the only one that they can't go, that you can't go and change. It's the only one that a judge, you've seen these activist judges now where they're essentially telling Trump, send that person, like, I don't care if they're a gang member and they raped and murdered people, bring them back. There's certain powers that the president should hold, and this is why he exists, for him to be able to run the company how he sees fit. And I like the fact that he can pardon people without a judge saying no. Because in my situation, most likely, I don't know, but most likely the judge would have said no. Because they want to protect their convictions.
Well, again, it's not the same thing. You were convicted.
Yep.
And then he pardoned you, which I agree that they should have that power. I don't agree that they should be able to pre-pardon someone. Why? They haven't done anything to pardon. Well, they are innocent. What am I pardoning?
Mine is to prevent political prosecution. So imagine they were coming after your wife. Do you want, like, if you get nailed, you get indicted and you go through that, it'll destroy your wealth. The government has no obligation to pay it back. And then you're ruined. And if the president could stop that, I would hope he would. So but you're saying, like, you're just assuming all these people are innocent. Like, if they did something and the pardon took effect because they were convicted, well, then again, it sucks, but hey, guess what? The president has that power. But why should anyone be pardoned for something they didn't do? Because I think that's one of those areas where
that's like a shield.
You have to be okay knowing that sometimes the wrong people are pardoned in order to make sure the right people are.
Well, the pardons still work. They don't have to be able to pre-pardon.
No, the thing that worries me though is that it allows the government, once you get indicted, so imagine if they indicted you or your family, the government has no obligation to repay you for the damage they do. So they cost me over $3 billion. My wealth was wiped out by over $3 billion when they did this. That's okay.
How much did your lawyers get, by the way?
50 to 100 million in lawyer fees.
Damn.
Between all the group. It was insane.
Imagine if you didn't have it.
That's why that's why I actually hope that you can be open-minded one day. No, you don't need to. It's okay. I'm not upset.
I'm open-minded now. You might convince me.
I want you to be open-minded about a pre-pardon, because imagine what they would do if you didn't have the money to fight for yourself. It would destroy everything you have in your life.
Pardon me.
So I'm saying they can't indict you, because if you're pardoned, they can't double jeopardy. They can't convict you for something you've been found innocent of.
So you're saying the president should have the ability to shield somebody.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll lean a little that way, as long as the president is not related to or involved in. In other words, my son's guilty. Everybody knows it, and I'm the president. So what? He's free to go. Like, dude, no, that is not cool. If my son did some shit and I'm the president and I'm related, I can't pardon him. Now the next one can, and maybe if I know the next one, I'll have him.
Yeah.
But I can't. Why? Because, dude, that gives somebody the unchecked power. There shouldn't be any unchecked power, in my opinion.
Only limited. And it's a very hard thing to even talk about sometimes, because the second you put a limitation on it, the power goes away. It is. Well, I mean,
it does its job though, Trevor. It does its job. In other words, you're trying to protect the innocent, which sounds nice. So do I. But
and he was trying to protect the guilty. I know that. It's almost like
he's trying to, he did protect the guilty unless Trump repeals it. Like, dude, Fauci, whether he broke criminal laws or not, I don't know. He did whatever he did. And again, I'm not listening to the media. I don't know Fauci. I don't know what he did. I'm just listening to the rumor mills.
Yep.
So I don't know shit. And I'm open enough to admit that. I don't know what happened, but I do know that you shouldn't be able to pardon someone who didn't do anything. That's like giving them, what happens now if he murders someone? He's innocent. Like you can't prosecute him, or you can't prosecute him for that. Well, what was that he was pardoned for? What did he supposedly do, or what are they going to say he did?
When in Biden's view, which I don't agree with what he did, but in his view, he pardoned him for anything and everything, which covered everything in his life. So there's nothing anyone.
So if we found him guilty of murder, nope.
Exactly.
He's okay.
And that's the sucky part about freedom. So think about this sometimes. I don't know if you're religious at all. I'm not a lot. I'm some religious. I used to be very religious. I went through a lot with what I've been through that hurt me. It was very hard for me to comprehend and come to terms with my relationship with God, with what I went through, and the people that hurt me. But I do know that this one thing is that we're not every country, but in America, we have this thing called free agency. And supposedly that was God's only plan, was just give people free agency, knowing that they could go and they could do the wrong thing and hurt. If he took even a little bit of that free agency away from us, it would cease to exist. The free agency is sometimes used for wrong. And if you prevent the wrong from happening, you take away the free agency of everyone that ever lives. The same thing with a pardon. If you were to take the free agency away and put restrictions on it, you've undone the single reason why the pardon exists, which is unchecked power to fix a wrong, sometimes even to cover up a wrong. I hate how it can be used for evil, but we have to allow it to happen, because it's the only way we can protect the ability to prevent the innocent from being affected.
But it's never happened before, ever. No one's got a pre-pardon before.
Nope.
A pardon, if you look it up by definition, is probably, which I've never done, but let's define pardon and see what it says. I'll bet you it has something to do with letting someone off for something they committed. Like, that makes sense. And I agree, even if it was a murder and it was his son, because again, if it was my son and I was exiting, I'd let him off too. And I'd deal with the hate later.
Yep.
It's my son.
Yep.
And I understand why he did it.
Yep.
However, and I'm not mad that he did it. I'm just like, well, yeah, you figures. But Hunter did stuff and he was pardoned for it. All those other pre-pardons, they didn't do anything supposedly. So what am I pardoning him for? In case you can try and convict this person of anything, we're just going to put this shield around these people.
Believe me, look, I am as angry as almost anybody about what some of these people have done. Like, it makes me just, my blood boil. And I wish there was a way to I wish there was a way to bring him to justice and have the truth out, because I think the truth is important. Here's what I can tell you though: even if someone does, even if they do get a pre-pardon, you still have the right as a government to essentially drag anyone in and ask him with unchecked ability about anything you want. And here's the amazing part about that: if they lie to you, that's obstruction of justice, and you can charge them for it. So allow the unchecked power to happen with the president for pardon, because it's only one thing that can really allow someone to right or wrong without anyone stopping them. But there is other ways to go after these people, and it doesn't let them off the hook, because they will lie. The evil people, they just commit crimes over and over again. They'll lie, they'll steal, they'll cheat, they'll murder. It won't be very long until any one of these people that were pre-pardoned are back committing more crimes. They're going to get nailed eventually. So it's one of those things where, drag them in front of Congress, ask them questions under oath, and they're not allowed to plead the fifth, because they don't have, at that point, you're not protecting yourself from self-incrimination because you've been pardoned. So you don't have the right to say no. You have to answer. So I think that's really where you get them, is you bring them in front and you put them under oath and you question them in front of Congress, and you catch them in a lie and you nail them for obstruction of justice. And that's the way you get the bad people.
So right now, there's going to be 1 million people saying you are a scammer. What would you say to those people?
I would tell them I'm actually not. I never have in my life. I've been misunderstood a lot, and I've been attacked a lot. And I think anyone who has any type of social media presence at all or has seen kind of what that's like. You get these, people always want to take out someone above them. And they take joy in it, and they take joy in being behind a keyboard where they can just say anything they want to without repercussion.
Yeah, like Reddit.
Oh, Reddit's just...
Dude, Reddit's just filled with a bunch of freaking idiot haters. They're just freaking stupid on that platform. I mean, I can't even believe that platform. It's ridiculous. I can't even believe anyone goes on it. It's so stupid. Everybody's a scam and everything's bullshit. And I've never seen anything nice or good about anything on that platform. And everybody's hidden. You don't know who anybody is. It's keyboard warriors.
It's a cesspool, and if you want to live in that cesspool, you're gonna get filthy. But I do like Instagram, at least, because you can look at someone, you can see how many, do they actually are they a family person? Are they a normal person? Is it a fake profile? Is it a bot? It's really easy to tell quickly, and that's one reason why I've migrated there a lot more than say
Instagram.
Yeah, rather than Twitter, where I used to have a couple 100,000 followers on Twitter. When I went through this, they canceled me.
Twitter did? Oh, yeah, back before.
And they canceled me. They took away all my followers. But the thing about Twitter is you don't know who they are. They're all just fake. They're all just people behind the keyboard, just like Reddit. They're like just a more exposed version of Reddit.
And now with $15, you can be verified.
Yeah.
With $15. How does that verify you?
Yeah, exactly. And with Instagram, they just don't get that ability. It's a lot harder. And so sometimes I'll get someone who posts a really nasty comment about me, and I'll look at them and I realize that, that's a normal person with a family, and they're speaking from their heart. They're misinformed, but they're speaking from their heart. I leave the comment alone. I don't care. I'll leave it up there.
Well, what do you say to them? Because there's going to be a lot of listeners MFing me for having you on. Why are you platforming this guy? This guy ripped off 1 million people's money because the company's gone, right?
It is. I was actually just in New York all yesterday, bidding on the assets of the company. I didn't win.
See, people are going to be like, "Oh, see, isn't that convenient?"
Yeah, I mean, they will. But the point is, one. The fact is what I wanted to do is turn around and fix it and show the world what,
that would be awesome.
How amazing it was. Unfortunately, I didn't get the chance. It was bought out by, and it's public auction, but it was bought out by Lucid and another group.
Well, when they develop whatever it is you were on the way to finish, that'll also vindicate.
Yeah. And the trucks hit production. So I do have vindication there. The trucks are all real, but I wanted, it was my baby. I wanted to bid on it. We didn't win, but there's going to be people that hate you no matter what. And the only thing I would say is look, don't believe the things you see or you hear from the media. Do your own research. And I have videos up on my Instagram, talking about, each of the different allegations. I have videos up now that disprove them and show the truth. And some of them are better for me and some of them aren't. But I think the documentary is going to be a really good one where it'll help people. If you hate me, they're probably never going to go. They don't care. For people that have an open mind, go watch the documentary and then make up your mind. And if you still don't like me, fair enough.
Where do they see the doc?
We're going to launch it on YouTube. Actually, it's going to be launched on YouTube.
What's channel?
We haven't announced that one yet. It'll be once we have it, we'll let you know.
At Bradley TV. No, just
mainly because it hasn't been finalized yet. It's in the process, but it's getting close to being announced.
How can you co-stream it on mine too? No, just joking.
I have known nothing about content. It's actually something I'm learning right now. So just one, I'm super happy to be here. It's an awesome podcast. But like at the same time, I would love for your viewers to be able to see it.
Well, I think everyone's going to go see it. A lot of my viewers are entrepreneurs. Old and young, doesn't matter. I think they're all going to go see it as soon as you announce the channel. Where do they follow you right now? They follow you at Trevor Milton Official. Yeah,
on Instagram, Trevor Milton Official. Everything will be on there. Also, TrevorMilton.com. You can go there and it'll give you like the link to everything. But Trevor Milton Official on Instagram if you want to kind of get more on a personal level. It's going to be awesome. I mean, look, the calls that I had with the president are nothing short of spectacular. I mean, he called me twice. The first time
was to hear those.
Was that?
Did you record those?
No, they're not stuff that's like, I have I have notes and stuff, but the calls are, because I didn't know they were going to come in. The first one, he called me out of the blue and it was really funny because he tells me, he says, "Is this Trevor?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "This is President Trump. How you doing, Trevor?" And I'm like, holy cow, it's really him. And he's like, "How's your family? How's your dad?" Because he had done a lot of research on me. He's like, "Boy, oh boy, did they really get you, didn't they, man?" He's like, "Those people are bad people." He's like, "What they've done." He's like, they do it to a lot of people. You're not the only one. And he's like, "How are you doing today?" And I said, "Well, I'm doing all right. I'm surviving." He's like, and then he says, "Well, you can have a whole lot better day today, Trevor." He's like, "I just wanted to call you and tell you that I'm issuing you a full and unconditional pardon." And like, my heart dropped, dude, from 10 stories high. And I've never felt that kind of weight in my life come off of my shoulders. And he says, "You're clean, Trevor. They can never hurt you. You're cleaner than a baby's bottom." And then, and then he told me
I don't know how clean that is.
Yeah, it's funny. I know. He's like, and then he said, a few other comments that are kind of, private and confidential. And then he says, "Look, we'll be back to you. It's going to be announced soon. It'll be all over the news. I just wanted to tell you what they did to you was wrong." And then a week and a half goes by and I don't hear anything. I mean, at this point I'm getting scared because I'm like, did someone get to him?
Yeah.
Did my news get, did it get leaked inside? Is someone there that doesn't like me? Is it going to get, destroyed? And then my wife and I are just sitting there. We're on a call with our architects on a project. And all of a sudden I get a call from Florida and I'm like, what is this? And I'm like, I better answer that. Because, Mar-a-Lago's in Florida. And I was like, I just wanted to make sure I answered. And sure enough, it's President Trump, probably on his cell phone. And he's like, "Is this Trevor?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Trevor, I just wanted to tell you, I haven't forgot about you. I never have, never will. Promised you when I talked to you a week ago that I was going to take care of this. And I want to let you know your partner's in front of me right now. And I wanted to call you and I wanted to talk to you why I signed it." This is a guy who has enough time. He's fighting. Look at the wars he's fighting around the world and the problems. And he has enough time to call me not once, but twice, asking me questions, letting me talk. And, tells me, he's like, he signs it and he says, "Trevor, I just want to tell you, you're so clean. You're cleaner than I am." And I started laughing because he's literally making fun of himself in a great way of like saying, you're cleaner than anyone on this earth. You're fully pardoned, unconditional. They cannot hurt you anymore. You're cleaner than me. And he says, "I'm so proud to sign this pardon. And you can go tell the world and wear it with pride." He's like, "I'm so proud to sign it for you." He says, "Go tell him you got this pardon." And I was like, it was just the greatest feeling on earth to be able to know the president cared enough to call me, to sign it while he called me, and to, essentially just make me feel like to sympathize with me, have sympathy for me and understand what I went through. And it was really the most incredible moment, in my life to know it was all done. It was all over. They could no longer hurt me. And I was about ready to go to prison.
When did you receive proof?
I got a photo of it. It was actually funny. So the news, he told me I could go out and he's like, "Go tell everybody. Go tell them all, Trevor." And so the news went out news went out. It got picked up. It started spreading like wildfire. Well, then what does the media do? Trevor's lying. Trevor's a fraud again. There's no information online that this pardon is actually real. He's lying to everyone again. There's another reason why he should be in prison. He's a serial liar, da 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 da. And I'm just sitting there like, And they're like, we tried to confirm with the White House and it's not true. And all the media's running with this big thing that it's a lie. And I'm like, this is literally what the media does. They just decide they're going to just frame someone, and there is no amount of evidence that'll ever make them happy. So then all of a sudden, one of the big platforms got a hold of their contacts inside the White House, and they were like, no, it's real. And then I think it was a Wall Street Journal that maybe broke it first. They're like, no, it's legitimate. Like this pardon, we just confirmed with 2 sources in the White House. It's legitimate. And did any of those media come back out and say, you know what, we're really sorry for lying about you and saying this is all bullshit and you're a fraud? No. They just, so it was just, and then it just started, then it took off, and it was, and the prosecutors didn't even know if it was real. And then all of a sudden cause I think this is like, again, the Southern District is a sovereign district. They don't care they think that they own their own district, and they work for the Department of Justice. And if they actually worked with them, then they would know. But because the Southern District kind of hates the Department of Justice, except for the powers it gives them.
You ever watch Billions?
Oh my gosh. I had to stop, dude.
Why? Because you see a lot of similarity.
It was so similar to my life, like in so many ways.
They're like playing games in there.
100% accurate in so many levels. It made me sick to my stomach. One of the best shows I've ever seen. I love, and I had to stop watching it. It was too close to home.
Well, now you can go back and watch it.
I don't know. Hopefully.
Well, dude, you're free. Even if you're guilty. See, that's the beautiful thing. You could turn around now and be like, dude, it was intentional the whole damn time. Go fuck yourself. And people would just have to eat it. But at the end of the day, you're free now. You're free 100%. What'd you do for the first 24 hours? Like, now that you know you're free? Because being in that trial or that nonsense for 3.5, 4 years, they probably, froze accounts, take away your guns. Like, did you have guns?
Yeah,
they probably took those.
All your guns, all your passport, your freedom, your life, your bank accounts.
Yeah. So as soon as you realize, dude, I'm fully pardoned. What was the first 24 hours like?
It was actually on the phone with family. That's what the first 24 hours was. Very, very close people that would keep it confidential.
Why'd you want it confidential?
Well, it was because when he first called me.
Oh, no. I'm talking about when he said, let the world know. Signed?
Okay. So at that point, my family had all known. So the first hour or two, it was all about finally sending the image, like, sending the pardon to my family, sending them the image, letting them know it had happened. It was done. That was like, for the first couple hours, that's who we were on the phone with, is all of our family and closest friends. And they were all just, beyond, just crying and couldn't believe how great it was. After that, it was like, you're just dealing with press, media, information coming in, questions, all that, like, people all over the world reaching out to you. I got hit up by people that, from all over the world, the relationships that got severed. And so many of them were there's a couple really, really wealthy people that hit me up, like top 10 wealthiest people in the world type people that hit me up, and they said, hey, Trevor, congratulations on the pardon. You never buckled. We're proud of you. You didn't buckle, you didn't give in. And they said, you're welcome to the club. And it's interesting because these people have all been targeted, and they don't have respect for people that haven't. And some of these people I didn't even really know before that. Some of them came out of the woodworks and were like, I just want to tell you, I'm really proud of you. We see how many people, everyone buckles and gives in and is destroyed, and you've made it through. And that was a really special moment for me, because I'm like, I didn't because I didn't do anything wrong. So I didn't take a plea. I said, the prosecutors were asking for 64 years in prison for tweets.
Yeah, see, that shit's crazy.
They'll let
the federal guidelines dictate.
Yeah, and it's all based on money, and they don't have to prove. Another thing in criminal reform is that they actually have to prove the true actual damages, because one of the things they did is they just told the judge it's $600 million in damages. Well, that puts you at the highest level of all sentencing. You're in prison for the rest of your life. But they couldn't find one person that ever invested based upon what I said at the moment I said it. So they had people like 3 months after what they said I said was wrong and invested. That doesn't matter. That's 3 weeks or 3 days. Sometimes some of them were prior to me. It's kind of crazy, or prior to the comments. And so they couldn't find one person that actually lost money based upon what I said in the moment. They just said, oh, well, overall the whole market got damaged, so we want Trevor to pay for that, and here's the damages, and so he should go to prison for life.
when they are the ones that damaged it by interfering in the first place.
Bam. If the same standard was held to them, they'd be in prison for life.
I think it's time we hold them to the same standard. So I hope you make this change that you're trying to make, because I assume your mission now, because you're not broke. You got everything back. So like you're a wealthy individual with means. Are you going to invest some of those means in trying to actually go make a change for us little folks that can't necessarily afford to fight for ourselves?
I actually, through the whole process, I've been big into donating to the innocent programs. It's one of the things I love to do. I've donated to a lot of those innocent programs, and they vet the cases and they make sure it's delegated the right way, because I don't want to be the one vetting the cases. I don't have time. So I donate to a lot of the innocent projects, to different state levels, federal levels, and they've done a really good job helping. And the other one I'm doing, obviously, is I'm preparing an entire essentially document about the reform that would prevent the prosecutors from destroying innocent lives, and to make it a fair system again, where they actually have to prove someone was guilty, not just the fact they say it, and so someone is guilty because they say it. So that's something I'm working on right now, and I hope to be able to give it to the president soon. And hopefully I can drive that change. That's going to be one of my big ones. But I was able to keep a lot of my, or I should say some of my wealth. I'm a lot less than where I was. No longer a billionaire. That's okay. I don't care. I'll be there again. It's easy. I've never had a problem making money. For me, it's very easy because I know how to solve problems for society that other people can't do. So the people that do well always do well over and over and over again. The people that are billionaires, a lot of them have had 4 companies or 3 companies, and they're successful in all of them. So it's I've had some successes and some failures, and I'm definitely ready for the next chapter in my life, but not quite yet. I'm still recovering from this, and it's going to take a couple months for me to come out of it.
Breathe a little.
Yeah.
So what can the Bomb Squad do for you?
Man, just one, watch the documentary, but 2, actually go research. And I always love when people can give comments of support, because, you get a lot of negativity online. And those do fuel me to really want to be better. But it's also really nice when you get people that are like supporting you too. So any support, obviously, anywhere, anytime that anyone ever defends me or comments in the positive, I can tell you right now, those things actually make a big difference. So don't ever be afraid of actually saying something nice about someone.
That's a good bomb right there. You heard him, Bomb Squad. Listen, do me a favor, because I never ask you for anything. Go out there and give this dude some support. You can find him, Trevor. It's official. Trevor Milton Official.
Trevor Milton Official on Instagram. And TrevorMilton.com.
Or TrevorMilton.com. But go drop some comments on his post. Drop some comments all over this and share it out. And if you hear people hating, man, stand up and defend a brother once in a while. Appreciate you coming in, man. And I wish you luck.
Thanks, Bomb Squad. You guys are awesome, man. Appreciate it.
Until next time, folks, keep it real.